Hello there.
Pizza time.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
I don't like sand.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
You know how much I sacrificed?
Why do we make so many jokes and memes out of these movies?
기름, blue.
Hello fellow Drakans. By now, you've all probably watched the recent Spider-Man movie. I'll try my best to try not to spoil the movie because I think it's a movie that is experienced better if you go into it blind. But just a heads up, I may make slight implications and maybe minor spoilers to some. Anyways, that being out of the way, let's talk about Spooderman! It's now a well-known fact that Spider-Man No Way Home was basically a Raimi Spider-Man trilogy nostalgia trip with actor William Dafoe and Alfred Molina participating in it. And in my opinion, No Way Home would have never happened if it wasn't for the attention the original Raimi trilogy is getting after almost 14 years has passed. There are so many fans on the internet that love these movies and worship them like they're gods, and of course, comes the memes.
I'm gonna put some dirt in your eye.
In my opinion, the two biggest and most devoted movie series to get memes currently are the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and the Star Wars prequels. Just look at the amount of people each subreddit has. Our prequel memes have 2 million users, which is actually similar in size to the actual Star Wars Reddit page, and the other trilogies have this few people. Same thing with our Raimi memes and the official Spider-Man Reddit. Also, the most famous Raimi meme is of course Bully Maguire. Just look at channels like Matan Animation Studios and the views their video gets. So why are there so many memes about these movies? From Bully Maguire's sinister dancing to Anakin's displeasure of sand, from Pizza Time to Obi-Wan's domination of the high ground, and from Dr. Octopus having the power of the sun in the palm of his hand to saying general names as a response to specific greetings, the memes are countless. I was able to break down into 3 reasons why these movies are great meme spawners, and they're pretty interesting. What are they?
Ladies and gentlemen, fasten your seatbelts.
Part 1. Generation. Answer this question for me. It's a very simple question. Who makes the memes? You know all the funny memes you see on Reddit, Discord servers, hashtag memes chats, and iFunny? Who are the meme makers? Well, even though I can't fact check this because I don't think there has been any official studies on the culture of memes and the demographics. So this is just based on my experience and logical deduction, but I'm gonna make an educational guess that people in their young adulthood to people in their late 20s make the memes. People who are graduating high school, in college, or just graduated, or employed but not very long.
But could you pay me in advance?
So about this age bracket. I mean, I doubt there are not many Fortnite playing children who's fucking 12 sitting down and making memes about Bully Maguire with After Effects, or people in their 40s making memes when they have better things to do in their lives, like raising children or paying their taxes. So my conclusion is, internet culture, including memes, are usually led by people in this age bracket. I think my content usually targets the same meme-liking audience, and just look at Guillaume Red's audience statistics on YouTube. So in the current time making of this video, it's usually people born from the early 2000s to the mid 90s that are the meme makers. And when did the Star Wars prequels come out? 1999 to 2005. When did the Raimi trilogy come out? 2002 to 2007. Very similar time brackets, only 2 or 3 years apart. Is that a coincidence?
I think not!
What I'm saying is, the meme makers grew up with the prequels in the Spider-Man trilogy, and that is a big reason why they're so popular these days, and why so many memes utilize the prequels and Raimi trilogy. The people who watch Revenge of the Sith and Spider-Man 3 in theaters, which includes me by the way, are the sources of the memes.
See you, chump.
I mean, I argue Star Wars original trilogy had just as many memes as the prequels.
Hello there.
But look at the difference in the amount of subscribers in each trilogy subreddits. The people who grew up the OT are too old now. They're busy with life, they moved on, or maybe they just don't jive well with absurd Gen Z humor anymore. Take me as an example. I was born in 1997. I was 8 when I watched Revenge of the Sith in theaters and 10 when I watched Spider-Man 3 in theaters. Even though in retrospect, I don't think these movies are that great after growing up because I learned to take off my nostalgia goggles unlike most of the internet.
I should have known the Jedi were plotting to
I would still be lying if I said I didn't have fondness and nostalgia for these movies. Very similar to a game in the Pokemon series that I think aren't very great, but that's a topic for Game Red. Anyways, these were my childhood. So as a 24-year-old man-child, things from my childhood please me no matter what.
Nothing comforts anxiety like little nostalgia.
Speaking of Gen Z humor, I think the evolution of memes show how much we are dependent on movies and pop culture. Back in the early 2010s, memes were usually putting captions on a funny image with witty words. The most famous meme back in the day was a photo of Keanu Reeves, and I doubt many people even know that photo is a still from the movie Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Nowadays, the usual format is a joke or situation, movie quote. When you do something, movie quote. I wonder if in 5 years, this kind of meme format will be cringy. Will we look back at these memes and say, wow, everyone was just lazy and just used movie quotes? Only time will tell. To further prove my theory that internet culture is led by people in their 20s, I'll take you back to the past, in the mid-2000s when the biggest names on YouTube were creators such as James Rolfe as the angry video game nerd, ha, see what I did there? And Doug Walker as a nostalgia critic. These people were in the mid-20s when they started YouTube, James Rolfe being 26 and Doug Walker being 24 the year YouTube was founded, and they were making videos about things that they were nostalgic for, that being 80s and 90s games and movies. Now about 15 years later, time scale has shifted, and now people in their 20s are nostalgic for 2000 stuff, and prequel memes and Raimi memes are the prime examples. I know a lot of you young ones watching this video don't remember what this thing was. Yeah, it's ancient history that oversimplified. We'll make a video next month. Oh no. But back in 2000s was a thing called YouTube Poop. It was a series of meme videos with really bad editing that my dumb kid ass laughed at back then. And in YouTube Poop, the most heavily used meme sources were the CDI Legend of Zelda games,
You must die!
the CDI Hotel Mario video game,
Yay, Luigi!
or Dr. Robotnik saying in the animated Sonic series. And these are all from the 90s. Things that people who would have been in their mid-20s in the mid-2000s grew up with. Yeah, so what I'm saying is YouTube Poop evolved into Bully Maguire memes as general pop culture interests shifted as generations changed. And yes, you may say, hey, recent popular movies like Avengers Infinity War and Into the Spider-Verse are popular meme sources too, and they're not nostalgic. It's a valid argument, but here's the thing. These recent movies had memes, but the memes, not the movies, were like fads, only popular because it was recent. They kind of died down after time passed. They don't have super popular dedicated fan bases to make memes. I doubt no one is nostalgic for Avengers Infinity War in 2022, at least not yet. Just visit our Thanos did nothing wrong. That subreddit is basically dead even though they were super popular once. Infinity War and Thanos memes feel so 2018 and 2019, too pre-COVID, man. Still, I wonder how internet culture will change in the next 5 to 10 years, when things from the 2010s become nostalgic. Will franchises like Hunger Games become a meme source? Maybe the early Phase 1 and 2 Marvel movies, or perhaps the Harry Potter movies since that franchise ended in 2011. Whatever the case, I'm curious what the future holds. Anyways, the reason why the memes are so popular is the same reason why the Star Wars prequels and Raimi movies get a lot of resurgence with nostalgia. People watched it, grew up, and are making the memes for it and laughing at it. Simple as that.
It can't be stopped. It's self-sustaining now.
Part 2. Comparative nostalgia and generational conflict. Personally, I think this is the biggest reason. What is another trait the Spider-Man and Star Wars franchise have in common? Well, the franchises are continued to this day, but in different forms. For Spider-Man, we have the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man movies, and for Star Wars, we have the Disney-produced stuff such as the Star Wars sequel trilogy movies. Whether which movies or trilogies are better or well written is irrelevant, so I won't discuss it in this video, because we're only here to snark about memes.
That comes later.
But there seems to be some kind of stigma around these two franchises, a fan culture that does not exist that much elsewhere. It's sort of like age gaps, generational conflicts, or okay boomer jokes, and it's that people keep saying, my trilogy was better. The prequel movies are good, the Mew movies suck. The Raimi movies are masterpieces, the MCU Tom Holland movies are garbage cheap movies. Like surf on the internet, how many times have you heard, Tobey Maguire is better, Tom Holland sucks, or Anakin Skywalker is a good protagonist, Rey is a Mary Sue. Mary Jane is the best love interest for Peter Parker and Michelle Jones suck, or Rian Johnson is a terrible director, George Lucas is a genius. There's this narrative you see every day on Reddit or Twitter on how Disney hates the Star Wars prequels and are trying to erase the prequels, or Sony hated Tobey Maguire, at least until No Way Home. Like I said, whether these arguments are true or if I agree with them is irrelevant. But my point is, there seems to be this culture, this generation thing where people are putting the older movies they grew up with on a pedestal, comparing them to the new and idolizing them. And when they idolize these movies, more memes are made about them. It's up to the point where almost every single dialogue in the prequels or the Raimi movies are meme lines now. Small things like, yup, or Tobey Maguire screaming at the screen. I argue these kind of things would never have become memes if it wasn't for the idolized status the prequels and Raimi movies get. Just go to our prequel memes. They literally had to make a subreddit rule of no low sequel bad because people were spamming low effort memes about how the sequels are the worst thing to happen since their conception. Or Raimi memes. So many memes where people want to see Bully Maguire bullying little Iron Man Jr. What's kind of funny is that, at least for the prequels were on the other end of the stick 15 years ago. Remember how everyone hated the prequels because the internet was mostly made of people who grew up with the original trilogy? Remember how it was given standard by YouTubers and internet critics to make fun of the prequels or to make fun of George Lucas and his decisions with the Star Wars Special Edition changes?
In the Friday the 13th video, I shot Jason Voorhees in the head.
No good piece of...
That made me look like a cold-blooded killer. I always felt Jason should have shot first.
Fucking game, you no good piece of...
Well, people who grew up the prequel trilogy are now the dominant force on the internet. Nowadays, it's a bold take to say the prequels suck. So, what will happen in 20 years? Will the people who grew up with the Star Wars sequels defend it, worship, make memes out of it, and say how Star Wars movies in 2045 is the worst thing to happen since their son? Will there be a new Spider-Man running around in Marvel's Secret Wars 3, Multiverse Reboot Wars, and people will keep talking about how they miss Tom Holland? Only time will tell. But, one thing is for sure, this comment from George Lucas will be immortal.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully it'll work.
Part 3, the movies themselves. The final reason is, well, the movie themselves. Like, the first two reasons I said why these movies are so heavily memed upon are external factors. The internal factors are more important than external factors really. All of them wouldn't have mattered if it wasn't for the movies themselves. So the truth and the matter is, the prequels and Raimi trilogy are just so fucking funny to make fun of or make jokes about. It's kind of hard to explain why almost every line in these movies are funny. It's like trying to explain why the Three Stooges or Abbott and Costello are funny. They just are. But I'll try my best to comprehend this for you all. For the prequels, I think it's just a combination of bad dialogue by George Lucas and the acting of the actors.
The oppression of the Sith will never return. You have lost.
Yeah, I know there are many prequel lovers out there, but even you guys have to admit the dialogue in these movies aren't very natural and feel stoic as fuck. Like I said before in previous videos, George Lucas is a brilliant world builder and an idea man, but he's not really good at writing natural sounding dialogue. There are lines that just make you stop and go, wait, what?
What?
In these movies because they are just really nonsensical or plain up funny. For example,
only a Sith deals in absolutes.
The statement is an absolute, so therefore Obi-Wan is a Sith, not Anakin.
Do or do not. There is no try.
The line makes no sense, but it's kind of funny and a gold mine for making meme pics about things that are absolute. Hence, birth of a meme. Or,
yes, my lord. Will be done, my lord.
In the Order 66 scene, it makes no sense for clone troopers to call Chancellor Palpatine a lord. They should be calling him sir. Palpatine isn't an emperor yet, and the clones don't know he's a Sith Lord. And yeah, they kind of fixed that with the brain chip thing in the Clone Wars, but that's a retcon that was created a decade later. It will be done, my lord, makes no sense, but George probably wrote that cause it sounded cool. And it does sound fucking cool. It's a response useful to use in memes and what my Discord mod people use whenever I tell them to ban someone from my server. For the Raimi movies, I think the movies are a lot better written than the prequels because they weren't written by George Lucas. However, the awkwardness doesn't come from bad writing or nonsensical dialogue. It's cheesy dialogue in the Raimi movies that I think Raimi was trying to homage to Silver and Bronze Age comic books that feel kinda awkward or really funny. These kind of dialogue feel like straight out of a children's cartoon, not from a realistic gritty superhero drama that most modern superhero movies target these days. And these cheesy, corny lines are what gives the Maguire movies their charm, in my opinion. For example, Dr. Octopus saying,
"The power of the sun in the palm of my hand."
It's not something a real scientist would say in real life when doing an experiment, but something what a supervillain or mad scientist in a 1960s comic would say. But damn, it's a good and memorable line that's heavily memed upon. Or another Doc Ock line.
Butterfingers.
That line is kind of cringy for me. Isn't Dr. Octopus a tragic villain who lost his wife and is in grief? Why does he talk like a Saturday morning cartoon character there?
My Rosie's dead. My dream is dead.
2 hours later.
Butterfingers.
Well, it's probably there because that's what 1960s comic villains talk like, and that's what Raimi was trying to recreate. He wanted to give some campiness to the movie, and it's what makes the movies intentionally or unintentionally funny as fuck. The awkward dialogue of both movies result in a lot of lines that sound really funny out of context. For example,
Sorry I'm late. It's a jungle out there. I had to beat an old lady with a stick to get these cranberries.
or
I am the Senate.
or
That's a cute outfit. Did your husband give it to you?
or
What about the droid attack on the Wookiees?
these kinds of lines are just funny because they sound absurd out of context and wonderful to use in memes that utilize random humor. And isn't Gen Z humor all about absurdity these days? There are also many lines that are useful for GIFs in messengers such as Discord or Instagram conversations such as
Do it.
or
But you can't do this to me.
or
You have done well.
or.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
So many good lines in the movie that are useful for reaction memes. They just sound hilarious, and many of them are useful for my videos too. Every time I write about how much I hate Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, I can just write, I hate this game in my script. But that's boring. I need to be more creative as a writer. I can instead use lines such as or.
You're trash, Brock.
And lastly, there's the actors in both trilogies. Hammy, wonderful actors that just make every line they fucking speak memorable. For the Star Wars prequels, it's obviously Ian McDiarmid as Palpatine and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. And for the Raimi Spider-Man movies, it's William Dafoe as Norman Osborn and Tobey Maguire as Peter Parker. I'm gonna play these lines with text-to-speech. When George Lucas or the writers for the Spidey films wrote these lines, I don't think they were thinking it would be funny or memorable. They're just mundane lines, but made gold through the actors' pure acting skills and their delivery. As they say, comedy is just timing and delivery, right? Anyways, here we go.
I love democracy. I love the Republic. You know, I'm something of a scientist myself. So uncivilized. You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door.
Now, I'm gonna play this real footage to see the contrast.
I love democracy. I love the Republic.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself.
So uncivilized.
You'll get your rent when you fix this damn door!
Do you see why these actors are fantastic? I think Emperor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith and Norman Osborn in Spider-Man 1 are one of the funniest and hammy supervillains I've ever seen on screen, and just mundane dialogue that would sound boring if anyone else said it sounds hilarious because they said it.
It's treason, then. Out am I!
Tobey Maguire is probably the most hammy out of the good characters.
My back! Oh, my back!
Like, this man is a true acting man that gives it a 200% every time he acts. Whenever he cries, it really looks like he's crying because his pet that he lived with for 10 years just died. When he screams, good God, he screams. And when he acts all emo in Spider-Man 3 because of the symbiote, good God, the world was not ready for this in 2007. Like, I swear, Raimi knew that the sequence would become a legendary meme that is on the status of memes such as Rickrolling on this mute thing called YouTube and the internet when he filmed this in 2007. He saw the future. As for Obi-Wan, I don't know. He's just really charming with that beard, and his sassy lines are just hilarious as fuck.
Alright, R4. No. No, nothing too fancy.
Anyways, in conclusion, the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy and the Star Wars prequel trilogy are a treasure box of memes on the internet these days and super popular because the people who grew up with them are the dominant meme makers. There's a generational conflict in the franchises that cause comparative nostalgia and fan obsession, and the movies themselves have awkward or corny dialogue with brilliant actors that make them perfect storm of memes. These two franchises are like lightning in bottle situations in many ways. I don't think you can create another meme franchise like this again. Hell, argue the memes are now more famous than the movies themselves. You know, there are probably a lot of people in the current generation or casual viewers who never watched the Raimi movies that do know what Bully Maguire is. In Korea, I barely met anyone who's even watched Star Wars, and they know about the Padme and Anakin staring memes. These people don't even know this handsome young lad is actually Darth Vader. They don't know Star Wars, but they know the meme. It's truly iconic. So, I think the prequels and Raimi movie memes have gotten to the point where they will never die or get old or not funny. It's like Rickrolling. Immortal because it's too big now, and everyone accepts it. And Sony and Disney knows that too. There are lines in No Way Home that straight up references the Raimi memes, such as Norman Osborn's scientist line. Also, No Way Home did bonkers at the box office despite being in the pandemic. Mark my words, we'll get more Tobey Maguire Spider-Man content somehow after this kind of success. For Star Wars 2, we get meme lines recreated in recent stuff too.
Do it!
The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be natural.
Also, we're getting prequel nostalgia bait with series such as Bad Batch, which is basically a continuation of the Clone Wars TV show, Obi-Wan Kenobi show starring Ewan McGregor, and Boba Fett show starring Temuera Morrison. Love, hate, or indifferent to the prequels of the Raimi movies, you have to agree they are immortal in many ways, and the memes will be endless, bigger than me, or you, or any of us, and they're just plain fucking funny.
How'd that get in there?